Hi, this is Chip.
And this is Christiana.
And we are now back in Oregon. So after Ireland, we were in England for about 5 months. The video that we will be presenting today is the first half of that time when we were primarily in the city of London and then went on some excursions from London elsewhere.
You might be surprised to see us back in the States, but between the pandemic and the travel restrictions from that, as well as just missing our family, we realized that it was time to come home, at least for a spell. We're very happy to be back.
Yes, indeed. We flew from Dublin to London
in August of 2021.
Yeah, toward the end of August, and we're in London through Halloween of last year. So on our flight in from Dublin, we flew right over Windsor Castle, which was interesting. A good bird's eye view of that castle, and I think that's like where the Queen hangs out a lot of the time. And so our apartment in London was really right in the heart of the kind of historic old town, and it was an easy walk from there to the London Bridge, and then on the south side of the Thames you could walk along the river to the Tower Bridge, cross the Tower Bridge, come back down, and then you'd be right there at the Tower of London. And so this video is a sped up version of that walk, which we did several times just because it was such a cool walk and very proximate to our apartment. One of the interesting things about that apartment is the nearest tube stop was the Monument stop, and the Monument relates to a monument that was built in the late 1600s to memorialize the fire of London of 1666. And so our apartment was within feet, I think, of the origin of that fire.
Needless to say, we did not have a car while we were in London, so we took advantage of the public transportation, which was really, really a treat. The subways were, the tube, fantastic. You never had to wait more than a couple minutes for a train to get anywhere in the city. But more fun were the buses, the double-decker buses. Anytime we had a chance to ride a bus, I was happy because I wanted to see where we were going. I like the efficiency of the tube, but I really like the visual clarity of the buses, and especially going upstairs to the second level of the buses.
One thing that you can't help but notice when you're in London is just how old things are. It's just, not just the sort of classic stuff that you're familiar with, the Tower of London, which was from about 1,000 years ago, but going back to the Romans, which goes back 2,000 years. It was, I think, settled in the 1st century and really was part of the Roman Empire for 400 years. So there's lots of remnants of old Roman walls, and not only in London but scattered throughout England. Not only is London a very historic site, it's also, you see this juxtaposition at times between the ancient and the modern. And it's also home to some of the world's great museums, which we made full use of. And one of the nice things is a lot of them, sort of like the Smithsonian museums in Washington, D.C., are free. So we took advantage.
Yeah, it was really nice. We needed to make appointments online for spacing because of COVID. And there was always space available. We never couldn't go. One of the things that I've always wanted to do, but didn't really think I would have the opportunity, was to go to the Royal Chelsea Flower Show, which typically is held in the spring. So we were able to go this year. Here's a souvenir of our trip. This year they chose to have the flower show in the fall rather than in the spring. It exceeded my expectations. It was super crowded.
In addition to the art museums and the history, London is also home to some of the world great parks, which we also made extensive use of.
What was your favorite park? You can't choose mine.
Well, what if mine is the same as yours? All right, well, I like Hyde Park. Hyde Park was awesome. It's huge,
Near
varied.
Buckingham Palace. It's very beautiful.
And yours?
Mine was St. James's Park.
Yes, which was about, I think, 7 stops on our from our monument station to St. James, and it really is beautiful. Our apartment in London was about a block from the Thames, and so we did get an opportunity to watch the moods of the river. And one thing that just blows me away is how tidally influenced that river is. There are times when the tide's coming in and the current is going upstream, and then when the tide is going out, the current is going downstream, and the difference between high and low tide can be 30 feet. So it looks at times like they're in the midst of a terrible drought, but then wait 6 hours and it's fully up again. One of the beauties of England is the extensive rail system, which we also made use of. We bought a pass that allowed us to travel together for 30% less than if we were to buy individual tickets. From London, we went to Brighton, which, what do you think about Brighton?
Oh, Brighton. Brighton is a beachside town that we first heard about from watching Pride and Prejudice back in 1995. So they longed to go to Brighton, so we longed to go to Brighton too, and that was one of our first train trips, and it's about, 45 minutes maybe from...
Well, it was longer because I put us on the wrong train, so it was more like an hour and 15, but it should only take 45 minutes.
Beautiful seaside town.
We also went to Bath, which is appropriately named. It was the site of Roman baths back in the early 2nd century, I believe.
Also the home of Jane Austen, at least for some period of her life. So we went to the Jane Austen Museum.
And we also visited a friend in the town of Bury St. Edmonds, which again, appropriately named because that's where they buried St. Edmonds.
Then we went in the other direction. From London, we went to the town of Salisbury, and then from there to Glastonbury to see Stonehenge, which was definitely on our bucket list for a long time. And it did not disappoint.
Yeah. So Salisbury's cool because it's what, maybe a half an hour to Stonehenge. But then once you're back in Salisbury, the Salisbury Cathedral is renowned. So we
It's my
visited that.
favorite of all the cathedrals.
Huh? Not
I
bad.
think it was.
Okay. And then finally, we went to York, which was as far north as we got.
Charming cobblestones north, but really, really cold.
So that is a quick tour of our time in London, and then we'll just have one more video about our travels this round, where we did spend about 10 weeks in Canterbury in the southeast part of England in the county of Kent. So with that, we will bid you adieu. Adieu.
Adieu. Ta-ta, as they say in England.
Do they?
Bye.